The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts. Undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What's going on, everybody? We have another event taking place this Saturday, although that should not be a shock because it looks like we just have events every single weekend, and that's just the norm nowadays. I still look back to the old days where, I remember marking events down on my calendar, counting the days down just to see some fights, and that's obviously not the case. We've talked about that before, and the UFC just keeps pumping out these events. We have numerous different promotions putting on events. I mean, as a fight fan, I feel that we're more spoiled as ever. And honestly, if you want my take on it, I would actually almost hope they slow it down a little bit. Sometimes I think they water down these events a little bit. But I'm not hating either way. It is awesome just to have fights on when you want to watch them. And especially when you have events that have main events like this. I mean, another exciting main event spot here, taking place in the featherweight division. Brian Ortega taking on the Korean Zombie. I'm a big fan of the Korean Zombie, and I like Brian Ortega as well. He's an intriguing fighter. He's been out the game for a bit, so this is a big return fight for him, and we're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. And a lot of you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with the beef that these guys have. There was that whole situation where Ortega slapped this Korean rapper. I guess you call those guys like K-pop stars or whatever you want to call this guy, Jay Park. And I'm going to be talking about that as well a little bit later because, that's kind of the reason why to start the show off, I didn't say I'm a big fan of both of these guys because I once was a big fan of both of these guys. But Ortega kind of rubbed me the wrong way with that whole situation, and I'll go into that later. So, I'm definitely pulling for the Korean Zombie, but I've been a major fan of the Korean Zombies regardless, from way back in the WEC days. So, I'm pretty much going to be rooting for him against a lot of the other guys in the division. But we'll be talking about that later. We'll touch upon this entire card here in a second. Before we do that, you guys know the deal, though. We got to take a look back at this past event. Marlon Moraes, who took on Corey Sandhagen. We'll start at the bottom. We'll work our way up. And in the first bout, we had Tagar Ulanbekov, who defeated Bruno Silva with a unanimous decision. Kind of played out like I thought it was. Tagar was the superior fighter, but he didn't dominate as convincingly as a lot of people were hyping him up to be. He did have that questionable loss already on his resume, and you see he does have some holes in his game. He was able to pump the jab out there, use his reach advantage, and pull off that victory. If he really is going to be this future dominant star like you see some of these other Dagestani guys, I think he would have went in there and really put it on Bruno Silva, and that wasn't the case. So I expect him to be a solid fighter moving forward, but I don't know if he's going to be some type of crazy star unless he keeps polishing up his skills. Tracy Cortez, like I said, man, I thought that she would pull this fight off. Stephanie Egger, a lot of people were starting to move the needle on her because they started to find out that she took out Ronda Rousey in a judo match, and she had this prestigious black belt in judo, this and that. She's a big girl, but Tracy Cortez, like I said, she was the more well-rounded and just tougher mixed martial arts fighter. Giga Chikazi, he took out Omar Morales. Was a little surprised the way that fight took place. I thought Omar Morales would be a little bit more up to the task and would have been able to use his hands more. He was very hesitant throwing his hands, and as you saw, he has a lot of heart. I mean, he kept walking forward even after getting dropped, but I don't know where the volume was with his hands, and he was so scared and hesitant to throw his hands. I was very surprised to see that from Omar Morales. He doesn't typically look like that. But Giga, props to Giga. Giga looked amazing, and you guys know he has a lot of skills on the feet too. But I thought Omar Morales would have been the better fighter there, and I actually lost a play there. I did have a play in Omar Morales, so I lost that play. Tony Kelly takes out Ali Al-Kasi. Thought Tony Kelly looked very good, but like I said, he still has some holes in his game. And he let that fight play out closer than it should have. Even though he pulled off the unanimous decision, was getting taken down. What would hurt Ali, but then he couldn't finish him off. He needs to work on his grappling and his fighter IQ and patience in there. He needs to learn how to work that all. There's just something about him that's a little off. He has that traditional martial arts style and throws some nice leg kicks, but really needs to work on his boxing and his takedown defense, and learn how to lower his posture a little bit. He stands a little bit too upright, but I like Tony Kelly, so shout out to Tony Kelly. How about this next fight? Joaquin Buckley knocks out Impa Kasanganay. I knew the line was off on this. I told you guys. I said Impa constantly gets tagged in his fights, and I thought Buckley was gonna throw some heat on him. I did pick Impa to win the fight, but I said the line was off, and Buckley is a dangerous fighter, and that may have been the nastiest knockout that I have ever seen in the fight game. It's certainly up there. I would hands down put it as a top 5 knockout of all time. I feel very comfortable putting it there. So, what a big win for Buckley. Now he's made a name for himself, and he's not going anywhere for a long time. So, the guy's he's a stud, and props to Buckley. And the next fight, sure, a lot of you guys, that follow me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. You guys saw me barking about this. I was going nuts when Chris Daukaus pulled off this victory. It was one of my official plays at a 2-unit play on him. Grabbed him right around plus 235, and I said it, man. The line was ridiculous. I thought Chris Daukaus should have been the favorite going into that fight. Chris Daukaus is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. People were talking about what Nascimento was going to do to him on the mat. People had no clue what Daukaus brings to the table if this fight would have hit the mat. Daukaus was looking trim and in shape, and his striking is nasty. Once again, he proved that his boxing and his striking is nasty. And Rodrigo Nascimento, if you look at him on tape, his hands and his striking is not impressive whatsoever. He's a big boy, that has some grappling abilities, and he was able to exploit lower level fighters like Dontel Mays and the other guy that he took out on Dana White's Contender Series show. Chris Daukaus was not those types of guys. So I made a lot of money on that fight right there. I'm telling you guys, that brought a lot of money in for me, man. Grabbing him at those odds and just going in on him like that. I was like I said, just super excited. I was jumping up and down over here. I talked to Chris after the fight and Kyle. Both those guys are awesome, man. And like I said, Chris Daukaus should be joining MMA Live Discussion very soon. Although I'm not going to be doing the show this Thursday. Like I said, I got a little vacation going on, so I won't be doing the show this Thursday. I will most likely have Chris on the show the following Thursday. So big shout out to Chris Daukaus. That brought in a lot of units. Obviously made up for the Omar Morales fight, and we'll talk about the other play I had after these next couple of fights we talk about. Tom Breeze looked very good. Obviously people talked about Tom Breeze's mental stability and whatnot, but he's very skilled and looked great in there. KB Bular is going to have to go back to the drawing board and work on himself. It's a young kid that does have some talent as well. Ilya Topuria took out Yusuf Zalal, and Ilya was a guy that we were all talking about. I said he was very impressive, leading up to that fight. I probably should have picked him. I'm very high on Yusuf Zalal too, and overall I did slightly edge Zalal to win the fight. Thought the line was off as well, but Zalal is still a stud, and he's very young. Both these guys are very young. You're going to be seeing both those guys fight in the UFC for some time to come. But Ilya he has shown now that he could strike, he can grapple, and like I said, he's very young too. So that guy, sky is the limit for the Georgian fighter, Georgian Spaniard, 9-0 undefeated fighter. Tom Aspinall made Alan Bodat look like a joke. Made that fight look like a joke. Like Alan should not be in the UFC. But I don't know. Is it just that Tom Aspinall is the real deal? Got to keep an eye on him. He's just sleeping dudes left and right. Dricus Duplessis took out Marcus Perez. I thought there was some value of Marcus Perez. I did pick Dricus to win the fight. And as you saw, the fight started off. Marcus Perez looked very good. But Dricus, he has that X factor. Like I said, man, this guy, not the most technical and whatnot, but he can knock you out. He's just, he's very tough. He's resilient, and that's the intangibles that he brings to the table. And even if you have a more skilled fighter like Marcus Perez, sometimes those wild guys, they ended up winning fights like that, kind of like a Nico Price or something, Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura has been putting it together now. I'm gonna have to step the respect up to on Marcin Tybura. I was never that high on him from some of the performances that he's had in the past, but I think that he's cleaning up his game right now, and he's starting to actually be I don't know if I want to say a threat to the division, but this is a guy that's going to be stringing off victories, it looks like. I picked Ben Rothwell to win the fight. Ben won the first round. He looked good in there, but he looks to me like he blew his load and he gassed out. Tybura's been working on his cardio, and he's been looking good. Edson Barbosa pulls off the victory against Makwan Americani. That was a cool fight. If you guys that wasn't an official play or nothing, but if you guys do hop on the fight companions. You guys saw before that fight started, I said I threw $1,000 in Edson because I like to throw these little live bets out, for fun. Not as much money as I put on my major plays, but I did lose a little bit of money on Ben Rothwell, so I was feeling eager just to put some money in my pocket there as we were watching the fight. So threw a G on Edson Barbosa. Didn't put all that much money in my pocket, but won a couple hundred there. Then we had Corey Sandhagen. He took out Marlon Moraes. I was on Marlon Moraes there. Thought it was a close fight, but I thought Marlon should have been the slight favorite. I was wrong on that, and I had a very small play on Marlon. Grabbed him right around plus 110, and I thought there was some value there, and I was wrong on that. And Corey Sandhagen, looked great. I shouldn't have slept on Corey. I think I was holding a grudge towards him for his performance against Aljamain Sterling, which I did have a small bet on him there, and I lost. So shouldn't have looked too much into that because Corey is nasty. But again, even though I lost 2 bets and I won 1 bet, overall it was pretty much a stalemate on the night. Slightly lost about 1 unit because of the Chris Dawkins play that I got at such great odds. So it was roughly a 1 unit loss on the card. And you know what? That's not bad, man. Things have been moving and things have been on the up and up. I've been bringing in a lot of money over the last 2 months. So that's a good thing when you have an off night where you could still just barely even lost anything. It's okay, man. We go back to the drawing board. And you guys know what time it is. We move on to the next event, which is this event here. We're going to start off with the first fight of the night. We did have some movement on this card, so now this will be the first fight of the night. We got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Mark Striegel, Filipino. A lot of people have been high on this guy, Mark. They've been anticipating his UFC debut. I'll talk about him here in a second. First, I want to start off with Nurmagomedov. This is a guy that a lot of people, they see the last name as far as him making his debut in the UFC. A lot of people were expecting a grapple heavy type of fighter, and that's not the case. This guy likes to strike first, and he's quite talented with his striking, if you ask me. In particularly, you saw him in his fight against Ricardo Ramos, where he finished him. You could see that he has a nasty body kick, and overall, he's a solid striker. I like the way he uses his hands. He's aggressive, and definitely shows to have a lot of promise, although he is coming off a loss against Raoni Barcelos. Barcelos is a very, very talented fighter, so no shame in that loss there. Barcelos is a guy that, as a lot of you guys know, I'm very high on him. I consider him to be a guy on the rise to the top of the division. So now, he's coming in as a big favorite here, minus 410. That is a little surprising to me against a guy in Mark Striegel. This guy, he has all types of credentials. This guy is a Sambo champion, I guess in the Asian department, Sambo Asian champion. I guess technically some type of I guess you can call that some type of Olympic credentials. I believe it was some type of Olympic competitions. But this is a guy that has traditional Taekwondo skills. This is a guy that's been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. He has skills with his hands, his boxing. This guy just has been practicing all different types of mixed martial arts from a young age, and this guy is very physically fit, and I feel like this guy brings a lot of skills to the table. So I was a little surprised to see the line, where it's at. This guy Mark, like I said, this guy is a very, very promising fighter, but he has a big test on his hands here against Nurmagomedov, and coming in at 32 years old, this guy doesn't have a lot of time, so he's got to make a statement right here from the get-go. I do believe that Mark has fought up as high as featherweight, where Said has fought as low as flyweight, so maybe something to keep an eye on there. Even though Nurmagomedov is a guy that's fought at flyweight, he's still a very big dude. When he was fighting at flyweight, it was pretty ridiculous if you ask me. He's 5'8", he has a big frame, he's tall, 70-inch reach. So don't get it twisted in that sense. He's still a very big fighter. It's not like he's going to be outsized here at all, in my opinion. And in fact, I think these guys should be pretty similar there. So yeah, we'll take a look at Mark real quick. 18-2. Just does have these 2 losses here where he was submitted in both them, and I don't necessarily think that that's going to be an issue for him against Nurmagomedov. I don't expect him to be being subbed in this fight. I expect this fight to more so take place on the feet, actually, if you ask me. So we'll see how the striking matchup goes. That's kind of how I look at it. Does have a victory over Kai Kara France back in 2014, and this guy's he's a talented fighter, man. Pulling off subs, good strike. Pulled off a scarf hold arm lock there, and I'm excited to see how he performs. But like I said, man, this is a guy that a lot of people are high, and a lot of people have been waiting for him to make his UFC debut. As if you look online, you'll see a lot of forums and articles written about this guy. So I know that the Asia scene will be excited to see him in there. As I said, though, Nurmagomedov is no joke, and I got to pick Nurmagomedov to win the fight. I think that he's just going to be the more dominant mixed martial arts fighter. I think that this guy is making strides in the game right now. I like his striking. Like I said, I like his body kick. I think coming off that loss, he's going to be extremely motivated. And again, the loss that he had, there was no shame in that. So I think it's a recipe for him to come back and bounce back with a nice victory here. But you never know, man. Maybe this UFC newcomer that he's fighting will show up and he'll make it an entertaining fight. Like I said, though, Mark is a guy extremely fit. This guy is extremely fit and has some real skills to go along with that. So a great fight to start the event off as well. So. All right, we'll move our way over to the next fight, which is it should be an interesting fight because every time Gadzhimurad and Antigulov fights, it ends up being an entertaining fight that usually doesn't last long. Taking on Maxim Grishin here. As you see, Antigulov has lost 3 in a row. Lost to Paul Craig, lost to Michel Oliazashek, and then he lost to Ian Kutateladze. The Kutateladze fight was really the one that started the decline from this guy. Whereas before that, going into that fight, this guy showed to have a lot of promise. He's extremely explosive, extremely strong, has grappling abilities. This guy can use a lot of power subs to finish his fights. And then all of a sudden, you see a major red flag on him against Ian Kutateladze, where as if he goes in for the kill early, he uses all his gas tank, and he tends to gas out quite early, if you ask me. And as far as the striking goes, I'm not impressed with the striking at all either. And you saw flashes of that in the Paul Craig fight and the Michel Oliazashek fight. And that's why he's coming in now as a plus 310, where, not too long ago he was entering these fights, with a solid line. And I think this is a tough matchup for him here too, because this guy Maxim Grishin, although I'm not extremely impressed with him, I think Maxim Grishin is a guy that's well-rounded and he's extremely tough. And I think that he could survive the early onslaught from Antigulov and then do what everyone's been doing to Antigulov, which is just let him get tired and then just beat him, just start dropping shots on him and finish him too, because it's not even Antigulov. It looks like he can't even make it to the second round these days. Maxim Grishin's coming off his UFC debut where he lost against Tybura. We were just talking about Tybura. Maybe we've been sleeping on Tybura. He's a talented dude, maybe. And Maxim Grishin is a guy we've been seeing him fight over on the PFL scene for quite a bit, and he's a big dude. He's a solid, legit heavyweight fighter who has some skills. And I'm gonna go with Maxim here all day. You can't trust Antigulov. I mean, you saw Paul Craig getting the finish there. I was on Paul Craig in that spot. That was a fight that I really regretted not making an official play. I hesitated on that. I did pick Paul Craig to win that fight, and I really should have faded Antigulov and made that an official play. You could have got Paul Craig at great odds. He was a dog going into that fight, especially when the line initially opened. But people are fully on to the fact that Antigulov is a flake at this point. So, and here was Grishin's debut. Grishin doesn't throw a lot of volume, but like I said, he's capable, man. He's very competent in what he's doing in there, and I think that he can avoid the early onslaught from Antigulov. I don't see Grishin getting taken down and brutalized and subbed. I think he has decent takedown defense, and that he could, like I said, survive the early onslaught where then he will probably just get a finish on Antigulov or easily win a decision in the later rounds. He'll probably win 2 and 3 easily. So that's the route I'm going there. And as far as the line goes, I mean, it's not always the best plan to take a guy like Maxim Grishin at almost minus 400, but at the same time, I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of where it should be. Right, as we move over to the next fight, we got Fares Ziam taking on Jamie Mullarkey. Fares Ziam is a guy we saw fight quite a bit ago. Took on Don Madge, and that's a fight that I was paying very close attention to because I had an official play on Don Madge. So, even rewatching the tape on that, I know exactly how that fight played out, and I was actually quite impressed with this guy, Ziam, the smile killer. This guy has a striking background. And he's talented on the feet. This guy's a talented striker. He's working on his takedown defense. He was able to stuff Don Madge's his continuous attempts to get this fight down to the mat, where Madge would have had a nice advantage. I believe Madge maybe got him down one time throughout that entire fight. Ziam knows how to use the cage to use the wizard and defend those takedowns. And on the feet, he's nasty, man. He walks forward. This is a guy that has a striking first, mixed martial arts base, and I think he can give a lot of guys trouble on the feet. Jamie Mullarkey. This is a guy that's just a well-rounded, tough-nosed fighter who's coming off a loss against Brad Riddell. We know Brad Riddell is a legit fighter, and people are high on Mullarkey, I guess, almost to the same extent as Riddell. People respect these guys. These are some of the higher level guys coming out of the Australian mixed martial arts scene. These guys, even though Ziam is a tall, rangy type of fighter. I mean, Mullarkey has a frame to go against him as well. 6 foot, 74-inch reach. I mean, almost identical here. I'm taking the dog here. I'm gonna let you guys know I'm taking Ziam. I liked what I saw from him in his debut. He is a young buck. Again, how old is he here? It's 23 years old. 23 years old, and his last fight was over a year ago. So I expect him to bounce back and look better than ever. And again, even though he lost that fight against Don Madge, and by the way, for everyone that was with us on the Fight Companion, remember I was talking about the South African fighters, Duplessis, and we were talking about JP Buys, who has a fight coming up. And the other fighter that I was trying to remember his name was actually Don Madge. Don Madge is a nasty fighter. If you guys remember his UFC debut, made quick work of that highly touted prospect who name's not ringing a bell, but the guy who won his Dana White's Contender Series fight. But Don Madge is a very talented fighter who has nasty jiu-jitsu and can strike. And Ziam put up an excellent test against him at such a young age, too. The age differential. I think this is a guy that's going to become a grown man in front of our eyes and actually is going to be stringing off victories in the UFC. I'm kind of high on this kid. Maybe I shouldn't say I'm high on him, but there is potential there. And I'm not extremely high on Jamie Mullarkey to the point where I'm like, oh, Jamie's going to handle business. I mean, Jamie is a tough dude, well-rounded dude, but I'm taking the underdog here. And I think this is a close fight, but I'm taking the dog. They're going to target some dogs on the card. I think the Smile Killer is one that you might want to look into. Again, a very talented striker, and you should be able to grab him anywhere from plus 120 to plus 110. And actually, the money has been coming in on Jamie Mullarkey. Not exactly sure why that is from what I see on tape and from what I see. But the money has been coming in on Jamie Mullarkey. Ziam did open up as the favorite, so some slight movement there. Right. So working our way over to the next fight, we got Jun Park taking on John Phillips. Fight's taking place in the middleweight division. This is a pretty cool matchup here. Jun Park is a guy that's pretty talented. He's not a bad fighter. John Phillips is a guy that has a striking base. He's more of a boxing type fighter who probably shouldn't be fighting in the UFC if you ask me. Not trying to hate on the guy, but I'm not too high on him. Obviously, we saw Kamzat just eat him alive. Before that, he did pull off the victory. I believe it was the upset. I believe he was the underdog. He took out Alen Amadovsky, the Moldovan fighter. Not really extremely high on him. And then other than that, you see him lose to Jack Marshman, Kevin Holland, Charles Bird. He has a record of 22-10. And not really too high on him compared to a guy in Jun Park who's actually been an overachiever in my opinion. Very familiar with him as well. I did have an official play on Anthony Hernandez against him, which he did lose to Anthony Hernandez. But if you guys remember, that fight took place over in Asia. That fight, Jun Park was teeing off on Hernandez to start that fight off. Jun Park has some nice hands. He could box. This guy has some real hands, and he should have won that fight. I think he made a mental error in there, and he did get hurt a little bit, and then he ended up getting subbed. Bounces back with the victory over Marc-Andre Barut. If you guys saw Marc-Andre's last fight, you guys know that he's a very legit fighter. That's a legit win. That's a big win to go out there and take him out from the skills that he's been showing. And again, the boxing is very crisp. You see the jab there to the chin. Throws nice, clean, straight punches. Very good boxing, man, for an Asian fighter over there, Korean fighter. They're working on their stuff over there. So You know, he can throw kicks too, can throw leg kicks. Fighting at a Korean top team. You know, those guys are legit over there, man. There's some guys coming out of Korea, again, as we're going to be talking about one of them later on in the main event. But I'm all over Jung Park here. I think he wins this fight. I think that this will be John Phillips' last fight in the UFC. And, you know, that's just what it is. But this fight might play out to be a very entertaining fight. Like I said, John Phillips more of a boxing-based fighter. Jung Park likes to use his boxing as well. So, you know, this fight should be a stand-up battle on the feet, man. Two guys throwing hands. But I'm on Jung Park. The line, minus 255. You know, again, man, it's sometimes, you know, these lines are a little high. It's you know, it's tough because Jung Park has shown that he can flake out like he did in the Anthony Hernandez fight. So you do have to be careful there. But I'm all over Jung Park, like I said. That's the right pick. I mean, I don't know who's taking John Phillips there. Maybe some people are trying to snipe a value play, getting them at a decent line and hoping it's a boxing match. Somebody gets clipped or something. On to the next fight. We got Gillian Robertson taking Poliana Botelho. I like this fight. I like both these girls. Both of them have shown flashes inside the octagon before. Gillian Robertson, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. You know, this girl is a very talented fighter. I think she's growing right in front of our eyes. You know, she works with great coaches over there at American Top Team. I know she's up in Jupiter as well, and just the whole South Florida scene. I believe that's what Din Thomas. I think Din Thomas is in her corner often and has been helping grooming her. And you know, again, like I said, this girl, her BJJ is very good. She's a very strong grappler. I mean, we've seen her go in there and maul girls on the mat. You know, and particularly take a look at her in her last fight. I mean, just completely grinded Courtney Casey out. Courtney Casey is a girl that a lot of people are high on that could strike and has shown flashes of submission skills. And Gillian Robertson just mauled her, would not let her up, and just completely controlled her. Now we go over to Poliana Botelho. Poliana Botelho only lost one of her last 5 fights, and that was against Cynthia Calvillo, who's a very talented fighter. Bounced back with the victory over Lauren Mueller. I've seen Poliana go in there and just completely destroy women. You know, I could think of one fight. This is rewatching some tape on it. You know, I remember it from back in the day. I believe it was who was that? Suri Kondo went in there and just destroyed her in the first round. So that was back in 2018. So a little bit of a lack of a little bit of lack of performing inside the octagon. You know, she's been not so active, and you would like to see her, you know, start to step inside the octagon more often. Her last fight was in 2019. So, you know, I think she's battled a little bit of injuries and whatnot, and needs to get it together here and start being a regular competitor in the division. And this is a big fight for her, man. Gillian Robertson, like I said, I'm high on her, and I'm picking Gillian Robertson to win the fight. If Botelho can keep this fight standing, if she can avoid the grappling, I think she may have a slight edge on the feet, and that's definitely going to be the route she's going to want to go. I think she's going to want to try to bully Gillian Robertson, or in the sense that she's going to want to use her striking to really kind of to let Gillian know that she's there, and you know, she's a force to be reckoned with. You know, throw some nice power shots, kind of get in Gillian's head a little bit. I've seen Gillian before, you know, in the octagon where she's kind of she gets hurt a little bit, and then she lowers takes her foot off the gas pedal a little bit. So I would like Botelho to go in there and really lay the law down if she's gonna win this fight. But I'm on Gillian. I think if she gets her grappling going, if she gets the takedowns, I think that she can take this fight. But a very close fight. And as far as the line goes, you know, you got Gillian Robertson as a favorite all the way up in the minus 225s, minus 240 range. You know, a little bit surprising. I think people are looking into the fact that Poliana hasn't been in there in quite a bit. But you know, if she's there and she's ready to go, could be a very dangerous fight for Gillian Robertson, in my opinion. So this is a fight that you guys want to tune into. But yeah, Gillian Robertson is my pick to win the fight. All right, this is a cool fight here in the lightweight division. 2 UFC newcomers, guys that people are high on. We got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Guram Kutateladze, the Georgian fighter. these are two guys coming out of two countries that have a lot of hype behind them, man. The Georgian fighters, have you guys not been noticing that there's a lot of guys coming out of Georgia that are very talented? Because I've been noticing that. And then, of course, out of Poland, man, the Polish power has been on the rise. As we just saw, man, we got a new light heavyweight champion. Marcin Tybura is doing his thing, and there's some other guys in the representing Poland MMA that have been doing their thing too. And this is a guy 17-0. This is a guy, who's coming out of the KSW scene that a lot of people are high on. This guy has very high grappling credentials. This guy can strike too. He's fluid on the feet, and if you watch him on tape, you can understand why people are so high on this guy. Of course, the undefeated record, but that doesn't always, give the full story. But again, so Gamrot's a guy fighting over there in KSW. KSW is the biggest mixed martial arts promotion in Poland, one of the biggest mixed martial arts scene in the world, really. If you really want to think about it, it's one of the biggest promotions. They pack the arena. There's a lot of big crowds over there, and this guy shouldn't have too much of octagon jitters, in my opinion. Even though, of course, there's no crowds right now. It's not necessarily just the crowds, but I'm talking about just being in the big show. I think this guy's already felt that energy of just having a lot of eyes on him, whether it's on the TV or in person. As far as the grappling skills go, like I said, this is a guy that's competed, in a lot of high level grappling competitions. This guy's rolled with guys like Gary Tonin. Even though he got submitted, still Gary Tonin, one of the best BJJ practitioners in the world. Competing over there in the 2019 ADCC World Champions. These are events that fighters take a lot from, man. Win, lose, or draw. And so that's what this guy's been doing regularly, competing in high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions, competing over there at KSW, and you see him pulling off victories left after right. Has a victory over a guy in Norman Park, ex-UFC fighter, and pulling off nasty submissions, key locks, heel hooks. I mean, he's dangerous on the mat. Also, like I said, he's fluid on the feet. You see him knocking dudes out as well. And then you take a look at his opponent, Guram Kutateladze, the Georgian fighter. And this guy, you watch him on tape, man, I see a lot of I see some power for sure. A lot of these guys over there coming out of Georgia seem to have power, but I see some power in his hands. Was a little bit disappointed in the amount of volume that he puts out there. I see a lot of fights of his where he's just kind of stagnant in there, not a lot of volume. So I think that he's gonna have the disadvantage as far as that goes. If you ask me, I think that Gamrot's gonna be more on him, pressing forward and putting more volume out there. So as far as the decision goes, excuse me, guys. Yeah, and I'm on the Polish fighter here. I like Gamrot. I think that Gamrot, he gets this victory, and then we're gonna be keeping an eye on this guy moving forward. Physically, they pretty match up evenly. These guys pretty much physically match up the same as far as height, reach, all that goes. They should be looking like mirror images of each other about, and it's gonna be more about who's the more talented fighter. And here's the Polish fighter. You see him over there, man, already over there in Yas Island, man, just doing his thing, man, looking jacked up, ready to go. And then you take a look at his opponent. I mean, look who his opponent's brushing shoulders with, man. Khamzat Chimaev seems to be quite the regular sparring partner or training partner of Khamzat, so that's always a good thing. I mean, even cornering him, it's always great to brush shoulders with a guy that's as skilled and promising as Khamzat. I'm sure that does wonders for you, but I don't think that's going to be enough to help him get the victory here, in my opinion. So that's why I am taking the Polish newcomer, Mateusz Gamrot. All right, in the next fight, taking place in the bantamweight division, we got Thomas Almeida taking on Jonathan Martinez. Now, Thomas Almeida, kind of interesting to see him, returning back to the UFC. It's been when was his last fight? It's probably been about 2 years. Yeah, almost 3 years, man. It's been about almost 3 years since he lost to Rob Font, which I remember that Rob Font fight very vividly. I was on Thomas Almeida to win that fight. I was very high on Thomas Almeida since he's entered the UFC. Came in as a UFC undefeated fighter. He had some very impressive victories. And then I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the loss that he took against Cody Garbrandt. They were both undefeated going into that fight. A lot of people were looking at that fight as whoever won that fight was really, really going to be a guy to watch moving forward. Of course, Cody knocked him out. But then you say, okay, he bounces back with the victory against Albert Morales, knocks him out. So you're like, okay, he lost to Cody, but Cody's a very talented fighter. So, it was just a battle of two of the top guys, and you expect Thomas Almeida to go out there and still, outclass some of these guys that he was matched in there with. But then lost to Jimmy Rivera, and then he lost to Rob Font. Two very talented fighters. The only issue that I saw with that is that you started to see that there was issues with his chin, getting knocked out with Cody and then getting knocked out against Rob Font. Does leave his chin up there a little bit, and kind of comes off like he's been through a lot of wars. I have a feeling that he's one of those guys over there in the Brazilian scene over there that's sparring hard and taking a lot of damage, because I don't know, man, you see it. It's like his chin's not fully there, and I think that Jonathan Martinez has the ability to knock him out, because Jonathan Martinez is a fighter that throws some serious stuff out there, as we saw against Frankie Saenz, where he finished him just about 2 months ago. I'm going to take Thomas Almeida here again, and this is a fight where, I like Jonathan Martinez. I'm high on him. I think Jonathan Martinez has been overachieving, and I think that he's really grooming himself to be a solid UFC fighter. But I think that Thomas Almeida, although he has those 3 losses, they were all against higher level, top caliber type opponents in the division, and I think that Almeida has had a lot of time to recuperate from the damage that he's taken, and he's a very skilled Muay Thai fighter. He's very dangerous on the feet, and I'm going to take him to win this fight. As far as the line goes, it's pretty much a pick 'em. People have been bouncing back and forth or where they're throwing money at, and I like Almeida here. Yeah, the Chute box, Diego Lima, fighting out of a solid camp over there. Man, this guy brushes shoulders with some serious guys, and I like him there. Let's see here. So they moved that fight around as well. Jonathan Martinez, though, a guy that's really doing his thing and starting to settle in the UFC. So, and that was the Rob Font fight. Again, Rob Font's a dangerous fighter. You guys know the deal with Rob Font, man. That's where Rob Font was starting to make a name for himself. Some really powerful striking. We saw what he did to Sergio Pettis. Rob Font's legit, and you know about him and his main training partner over there as well, who's a savage over there in the featherweight division, Calvin Kattar. And I'm going to take Almeida, but that's a fight. Would not be surprised if Martinez shows up once again and Almeida still has damage done to his chin that hasn't recovered, and maybe Martinez gets a knockout. All right, this is an amazing fight here, man. Still going. Now we're in the main card. The last fight was also on the main card. We're cruising through the main card, and we got Claudio Silva taking on James Krause. This is a fight that I'm very, very interested in. I'm very high on both these guys. I think this is high-level mixed martial arts. This is a high mixed martial arts level fight, in my opinion, man. James Krause, you guys know I had the pleasure to chat it up with James Krause over there in MMA Live Discussion. This was back in the day. It's funny. It's one of the first episodes I had done. And, James Krause, excuse me, guys. James Krause was a guy that, in my opinion, is one of the most knowledgeable guys in the game. He's coaching all these guys over there in Lee Summit, Missouri. If you monitor the guys that he coaches, his win to loss ratio is ridiculous. I don't know how he does it, but I mean, if you look even on the regional scene, everyone that he's coaching, Dana White's Contender Series, these other regional shows, they continuously win fights. So I mean, this guy, and you see it in his fights as well. This guy just he knows a lot, man. He really does. And it really was a pleasure to pick his mind, to pick his brain. You got to excuse me on the quality. I was still learning my stuff here. That's when I had the fresh shaved head. When the whole quarantine thing started, I was like, let me buzz the hair off. But it really was a true pleasure to chat it up with James Krause. James Krause is a guy. He's super well rounded. He can strike with you. Knows how to use his distance. Nice kicks, nice boxing. Obviously the jiu-jitsu's there, the grappling's there. He can make you pay in the mat as well. Just an extremely well-rounded fighter, and taking on a guy and Claudio Silva, aka Hannibal, that he has a victory against a guy that a lot of you guys are high on. I know everyone loves Leon Scott, but Claudio Silva has a victory over him, which not a lot of guys can say that. And Claudio Silva has a victories over a lot of guys that he stepped in there with. Only lost one fight. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Very dangerous on the mat. He's 38 years old, which is a reason why I think a lot of people sleep on him. He's had some inactivity throughout his career too. Really hasn't been fighting consistently, but every time he goes in there, man, Pulls off the armbar against Danny Roberts, finished Nordine Talab, finished Cole Williams, beat Leon Edwards in a split decision, a close bout. And now it's time to really push this guy to the fire. Let's see what he's made of against the top level guys in the division. And, if he's really going to do something, he needs to do it now. 38 years old. But James Krause, like I said, extremely high in James Krause. And it's really going to be hard for me not to pick James Krause in a situation like this. A fight where, he's fighting at the welterweight division, which is a division I like to see him fighting at. He takes these short notice fights over in the middleweight division. Shouldn't be fighting up there. He's a welterweight fighter. I believe he's even fought at lightweight back in the day. I'm not sure if I'm correct in that. I think he may have, though. But welterweight's where he wants to be. 6'2". He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage. I think he can pump that jab out there. We talked about that when we are on the show. He loves the jab. He appreciates what the jab can do in the fight game, and so do I. I think he can keep Claudio Silva on the end of that punch if he keeps his fight on the mat. As far as the grappling stuff goes as well, James Krause is very competent. I think he can avoid Claudio Silva mauling him or pulling off a sub on him. And that's why I'm on my boy James Krause and representing Glory, MMA, and fitness. And, James Krause is the real deal. So this is a big fight. Whoever wins this fight is really going to be on the move throughout the division. It's going to get another big fight after this. So keep an eye on how that fight takes place. And, let's see who the winner gets matched up with after that fight. Right. Got a nice matchup over here in the light heavyweight division. We got Modestas, Bukauskas taking on Jimmy, the Brute, Crute. Jimmy Crute, man, this guy, he's brought in a lot of money for me throughout the years, so I got a lot of respect for Jimmy. He only let me down one time, and that was against Misha Serkinov, which that was a fight he got a little bit overzealous in there, got caught, ended up getting subbed, even though he was hurting Misha in the beginning of that fight. You see how dangerous he is on the feet. He's a guy that doesn't cut a lot of weight to the light heavyweight division. He's not the biggest of guys, not the most intimidating type of looking guys, in my opinion. He's just a physically fit dude. Doesn't have a crazy reach, and you see the reach disadvantage he's going to be entering. The fight from this Saturday, and I think he'll be at a reach disadvantage against a lot of guys. We've seen that throughout his career. It's just the way he's kind of built. But his boxing's nasty. His jiu-jitsu is nasty, and I've been a big fan of his ever since Dana White's Contender Series. His Dana White's Contender Series debut. And like I said, I've made money on him. Made money on him against Michelle Olasechak. Made money on him against Sam Alvey, Paul Craig. Big money there. I mean, I've been targeting him for quite a bit ever since the Dana White's Contender Series performance there against Chris Birchler. Now, this guy, Modestas Bukauskas, big dude, a really physically intimidating looking guy. The Baltic Gladiator. The Lithuanian fighter, man, those guys are tough. You guys know he pulled off the, I shouldn't say the upset. He was the favorite, but he pulled off the upset for me. I was on my Greek brother to defeat him, and Andreas Michailidis, where I thought Andreas was easily winning that entire first round, and then all of a sudden he went in and shot a takedown against Modestas, and Modestas stuffed it against the cage and started dropping elbows. And I'm not going to make any excuses, but he definitely did catch him on the back of the head. But if you put yourself in that position, that's your fault right there. And the fight probably shouldn't have been stopped either. That the referee dropped the ball on that. But the point I'm making is that he didn't really look too impressive towards the beginning of that round. Eventually did clean things up and finish the fight. And obviously he carries knockout power. So I mean, you see what he's been doing. He has been knocking guys out. So this guy has finishing power. I think that Jimmy Crute can avoid the knockout, and I think that Jimmy Crute is going to be more skilled on the feet. His volume will be better. I mean, we saw what Andreas did. He was working the leg kick. I think Jimmy Crute worked the leg kicks, the boxing. I hope Jimmy Crute doesn't have his foot completely on the gas pedal. I hope he slows it down a little bit and just lets the fight play out slowly, because he'll prove to be the superior fighter. As far as the grappling goes, if he gets it to the mat, I think he can really shine down there, maybe even pull off a sub. So, I hope Jimmy Crute has learned, from his mistake, the mistake that he made against Misha Serkinov. So, I'm on Jimmy Crute there. The line's pretty high, so it's in the light heavyweight division, and this guy does have knockout power. There is the possibility he can spoil the party, but I'm on Jimmy Crute there. Right, we're at the co-main event of the evening. Taking place in the flyweight division, we got Jéssica Andrade taking on Katlyn Chookagian. This is some higher level competition taking place in women's mixed martial arts. You guys know, you guys know the deal with Jéssica Andrade. She can knock any of these girls out. She's like a little, I don't even know how you want to describe her, man. Like a little grenade launcher, a little grenade. She's explosive. She can knock you out. She's definitely competent with the grappling. She knows how to avoid subs and whatnot. She is coming off 2 losses. Lost to Zhang and lost to Rose Namajunas, which was a close fight. Zhang is the champion. So no real shame in those losses. Katlyn Chookagian is going to really have to show up for this fight. This is a fight for her where she's trying to really put her name on the map. Coming off a big win against Antonina Shevchenko, or Shevchenko, that's the older sister of Valentina. But now Antonina showed that she has no grappling ability, so this isn't that type of fight here. Chookagian's really going to have to show up and bring all of her skills to the table. Chookagian can strike. She was really, towards the beginning of her career in the UFC, she was the king of the split decision. That's what she does, man. She wins split close fights, and she can strike. She's very competent on the feet. I believe Mark Henry is her striking coach, who's a very talented striking coach, and has really done a number with her striking. She's been coming around. Has shown that she's working on her grappling as well. Jéssica Andrade is going to need to close the distance. She can't be chasing Katlyn around the cage. She has to cut the cage off, throw those power shots. I think she should work the body. You guys know I always talk about that. Work the body. Don't just go in there head hunting Chookagian. Set those head shots up with the body shots. But Andrade, should be the superior fighter. I mean, I think it's a close fight. I shouldn't say it like that. I think it's a close fight. I think Jéssica Andrade should be the slightly better fighter. There's some X factors. I could see maybe Andrade being more powerful with the grappling as well, maybe getting on top of Chookagian. And I just like Andrade. She's a stud. I think she's going to be very motivated here, coming off those 2 losses. And I think that I'm going to pick Jéssica Andrade to win the fight. Chookagian, though, going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. She's a lot taller. If she could stay on the outside and make this just a striking affair, I think that she may be able to just to edge the decision there as well. So I think this is a very good matchup here for the division. And man, Jéssica Andrade is no joke, man. She's absolutely no joke. And this was the fight against Antonina Shevchenko where she just beat her down, man. Yeah, gotta take Andrade though, man. This is a girl that's been in the bigger fights and may have a little bit of an edge as far as that goes as well. She's been in the title fights. Chookagian, this is a big step up for her. Let's see how she rises to the occasion. All right, we made it to the main event, guys. Brian Ortega taking on the Korean Zombie. This is a fight that a lot of people have been waiting for quite some time. Brian Ortega has been out the cage for a long time. Hasn't fought since it's been about 2 years since he took that L against Max Holloway, where he was completely. See if I can pull it. Yeah, where he was completely beat down in that fight. If you guys remember, Max Holloway was pulling off. What was it? I think it might have been some type of statistical, where he was breaking records with the stats. You know what I'm saying? Just completely hitting Ortega with an extreme amount of strikes to the face. And you know what? Those are the types of fights where Ortega really did have to take the time off that he did, because I'm sure he took a lot of brain damage there. Ortega has nasty submission skills. You guys all know this. I've seen him. If you pull up some video on him on YouTube, you can see him, trying to fight 2 guys at the same time. I mean, this guy is a warrior. He really is. He trains all types of combatives with police and this and that. Obviously a very high level black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Ortega is a guy that was really coming around with the striking, at least so it seemed, coming into that Holloway fight, where then Holloway just showed he was on a whole different level. But, you saw him in the fight against Frankie Edgar, where he was able to knock out Frankie, which was the fight before Max Holloway. Yeah, that's what got him the title shot. Was able to knock Frankie out in that fight. Pulled off that nasty guillotine we just saw against Cub Swanson, standing guillotine, just hanging on him. Took out Renato Moicano. That's a big win. He submitted him as well. And knocked out Clay Guida. Ortega can submit anybody. He really can. He could submit the Korean Zombie very easily here, in my opinion. But as far as the overall fight, I'm going with the Korean Zombie here. I think the Korean Zombie is a very, very intelligent mixed martial arts fighter. This is a guy that was training and over there in Asia, over in Korea. They have these mixed martial arts universities. I mean, they study the submission game, the striking game. This guy is a very, very intelligent mixed martial arts fighter, and I think that he will be able to avoid the submission. I think he can keep himself out of those dangerous positions, and I think he'll be the more fluid striker. The Korean Zombie, you see him here, also has a victory over Moicano. Came back from, I think this was the fight he came back from a long layoff. After, he did have to take a break from mixed martial arts. He had to do mandatory military service over there in South Korea. And I think, let's double check that real quick. Was that the fight? No, excuse me. It was not the fight. I think the Dennis Bermudez fight was the fight he bounced back from the military service, where he got the knockout there. Then he lost to Yair Rodriguez, and then he bounced back with the 2 victories. But yeah, he did have a long layoff, which is good. He doesn't have too much damage on the body. He's been fighting over there in the WEC, or he was fighting in the WEC for years. I was a big fan of his back then, where he had these very entertaining fights, if you guys remember, with Leonard Garcia. Battled with him a couple times, got robbed a couple times, and he should have won almost all of those decisions. Then he ended up pulling off the twister. But such entertaining fights, and that's really where he made a name for himself, where they called him the Zombie because he couldn't be put out until George Roop. If you guys remember, George Roop hit him with the head kick that completely killed him. If you want to see a disgusting knockout, George Roop knocked out the Korean Zombie. I remember watching that over there in college. But still, he does have a chin. He's bounced back with the chin. And I think that the Korean Zombie will beat down Ortega on the feet. I think that he'll hurt Ortega. I think Ortega, like I said, took a lot of damage in that Max Holloway fight. And he's been out the game for a little bit, and I'm taking the Korean Zombie. Yeah, I'll take him to win the fight. And just to give you a little bit of the background, we talked about that earlier. There was that beef where Brian Ortega smacked Jay Park, this Korean rapper. The thing is, I talked about it earlier. I lost a little bit of respect for Brian Ortega because I don't understand. I looked into it. I saw the interviews with Ariel Helwani, all that stuff. And the fact that he slapped that dude, it was uncalled for. Even if that guy was hyping up a little bit of what the Korean Zombie was saying, man, that's what he's supposed to do. These guys are nothing but respectful, man. The Korean Zombie, and his boy Jay Park, they want to spice things up a little bit. I mean, come on, you're fighting. Let them talk a little bit of crap. It was nothing that was worthwhile of him going over there and smacking him. Ortega likes to talk about like his, the gang activity, the neighborhood that he grew up in, and all that type of stuff. And I'm not doubting that he was around a lot of that stuff, but he's seems to be an intelligent dude. He comes off like he's a respectful dude. I think that Max Holloway just smashed his brains in so much that I think that maybe it messed with him, maybe it messed with his ego, and maybe he has a chip on his shoulder and he's out there trying to smack dudes up like Jay Park, which I just don't get it. And I know that's the Korean Zombie's boy, and I think the Korean Zombie's coming out for revenge there. So, and I think he's going to get it. This dude is a very dangerous fighter. So, taking the Korean Zombie, and I think that he's going to hurt Ortega on the feet. But again, Ortega has nasty sub skills, so be careful there. The Korean Zombie's coming in as a hefty favorite right there. Minus 190, minus 185. The line is kind of high there. So, definitely excited for that main event bout. That's the fight I'm most looking forward to on the card. And I'm going to wrap up the show. MMA Live Discussion will not be taking place this Thursday. Like I said, I got a little vacation going down. Probably no fight companion either this Saturday, just to prepare you guys. I will bounce back next weekend with the nice MMA Live Discussion show. Probably have Chris Dawkins on, or another fighter as well. And then the fight companion will be going down for the following events. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Follow me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. On Twitter, it's the MMA Teller. My email is MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com, where you guys can reach out to me for any business inquiries, any advertisements. If you guys want my official picks, hit me up. You guys know, man, we've been on the ball, man, these last couple months, making a lot of money. So join me, man. I'm gonna have some solid plays that I'm finalizing for this card here tonight, and I would love to work with you guys. Reach out to me. If you guys are interested in the pricing, and I'll work with you guys too. So if you're on a tight budget, man, I'll work with you guys. Hit me up, and that's gonna wrap up the show. As always, I appreciate all you guys, and on that note, signing out.
The
Teller.
MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.